Welcome to the One Deeper podcast. My guest today is Mirjam Haas. Mirjam is a PhD candidate at the Tilburg School of Humanities and Digital Sciences in the Department of Cognitive Science and AI. She works in social robotics and is an instructor for the Autonomous Systems class. We talk about social robots, avatars, AI, virtual reality, and everything else in between. The topic of robots and their role in our immediate environment in the coming future is endlessly fascinating. And so I hope you enjoy this conversation with Mirjam Haas.
And we're live. Okay, Miriam, thank you for taking the time to sit down and chat with me about nonsense for a little while. I appreciate it.
Yes, of course.
Um,
Nice to be here.
uh, yeah, so this has been a really interesting journey for me, just sort of like getting people, basically, it's been me convincing people who have better things to do with their time to sit down and talk to me for a little while. But yeah,
Well,
okay, so you know. So yeah, it has been great. So I'm just excited to talk to you, because you're because because of your PhD, because you're a PhD student, and I also want to get a talk to you about their social robotics and see what's going on there. Well, do you want to give us an intro about yourself, real quick, for everybody who's listening?
sure. I'm Mirjam de Haas. I'm an assistant professor at Tilburg University at the Cognitive Science and Artificial Intelligence department. I say assistant professor because I have my defense in 1 month, in 3 weeks actually, at the
Oh,
time
nice.
of
Okay,
this recording. So that's why I'm already introducing myself as an assistant professor.
that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Okay, so
getting nervous, but it's going to be a good time.
oh, this is great. So actually, this is really interesting. This is great because I would love to talk to you about that whole process and what that entails.
Yeah.
So, but let's just start from the beginning. Like, how did you get? So, how did this trajectory of ending up in social robotics? How did it start? Let's go back to like high school. What were you up to in school?
Yeah, so I forgot to tell actually that my research is in social robotics and then specifically child robot interaction.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's good to know. But high school, I don't know when I started to look for a study program to do after my high school. I wasn't completely sure what I wanted to do, so I was thinking about whether I wanted to do computer science or psychology, and I was a little bit doubting between that. And then I spoke to someone who was going to study artificial intelligence, and I was like, sounds interesting. I will Google this later. And then when I Googled it, I was like, oh my God, this is actually what I want to do. And then I started my program in Nijmegen at the Radboud University. I did my bachelor there and my master. Um, I also went abroad during my master program during to Glasgow University or to Glasgow. I started at the university, and yeah, from there I did an internship at Eindhoven University. I just really wanted to use robots because I started to use robots during my master. Um, and then I saw a vacancy for a project for a PhD project at Tilburg University, and then I ended up at Tilburg University.
That's cool.
Yeah,
So you've been you've been around. You've been around, I guess.
yeah,
Um,
and
so
in the Netherlands.
in the Netherlands, yeah, right. So nine, how am I say it? Nijmegen.
Yes,
So that's in the north, right? If I'm not mistaken.
it's the north from Tilburg, but it is the middle of the Netherlands.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right, 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 right. Okay, okay, cool. That's cool. So what did you do for your bachelor's? You did AI, you said, right?
Yes. Yeah, they have a
Okay,
bachelor at the social sciences faculty called artificial intelligence, and I did
okay.
my bachelor and my master there. Yeah.
Oh, nice, nice, nice.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. So, um, So this PhD thesis, if you're feeling pretty good about the defense, like how does it? So what's the? Give me the like. How do you? What is this? How does this whole thing work?
Well, um, like I'm not nervous yet, but I'm going to get nervous when I'm getting closer, of course. But in
Hmm.
in the Netherlands, it's a process of 1 hour. So the defense is an hour at the aula auditorium of Tilburg University, and we have a committee. So there's a PhD defense committee, and they're going to ask questions.
Hmm.
Um, and each person gets, I think, around 10 minutes, a little bit less, to ask questions, and then I respond. And if I did well, then I get, yeah, my PhD at the end.
Okay. So who's on this panel? Like who are the people that makes up these people who are asking questions?
Yeah, so normally your supervisor together with me are talking about who's going to be on the defense committee, and those are researchers within the same field as me. So there are robot researchers in my case,
Hmm.
and they shouldn't be linked with me. So they shouldn't have done research with me earlier or during my defense. But I have seen them, of course, during conferences, for example. So I know who they
Okay.
are. I know what kind of research they do, and they read my book. So you write a book if you do your PhD. And at the end, you have around 6 chapters, for example, and the committee reads that, and then they can ask questions about those chapters.
Okay. So they're not specifically from Tilburg. Are they professors from outside Tilburg also?
Yes, yeah. So the
Okay.
idea is that there's at least one person from Tilburg University. So in my case, that's Peter Spronk from the
Hmm.
CSI department, and then I have other researchers. So yeah, I have one from Amsterdam, one from Nijmegen, and one from no, from Eindhoven University.
Okay.
And
So who's the supervisor for your PhD here?
Emiel Kramer, who's head of the Department of Cognitive and Communication Science,
Oh,
Cognitive
right.
and
Okay.
Communication Department.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. So I read about the L2 the L how do you call it? Is it L tour?
L-Tutor.
L2 tour? Yeah. So
L-Tutor. Yeah.
I was reading about it and I watched that video. So I want to talk to you about this this intersection between robotics and social robotics especially, but with children.
Yes.
So what just give us a like a overview of this project, like how teaching second languages to kids.
Yeah, so I did my PhD in an Horizon 2020 program. That's an official term. It's a European funded project, which was
Hmm.
called L-Tutor. And there were 5 universities involved, 5 or 6, many, multiple universities involved, and 2 companies. And together we had some projects working towards the end goal, creating a robot, a humanoid robot, to teach children a second language. And in my case, that was yeah, it was mainly focused on Dutch children learning English, very young children of 5 years old. And I was focusing on how the robot could keep the children engaged over time, because
So
children are very excited in the beginning when they have new
right,
technology. Well, I think everyone is, and then
right.
after a while, if you get used to the technology, you get less interest. Your
Right.
engagement
So
decreases.
what's the motivation to have build a robot to teach children? Like,
Well, of course, I would say that human teachers are always better. So
okay,
technology is probably not going to be better than humans. However, we don't have enough humans to always
right.
teach children. And actually, an additional benefit is that technology, like a robot, can speak all languages. So if you, for example,
Hmm.
have Turkish children moving to the Netherlands, or Ukrainian children moving to the Netherlands, and they want to learn Dutch, you don't have a teacher that can speak all the other languages of those immigrant children. And a robot, in theory, can speak any language and then help those children make connections between the Dutch words and the Ukrainian words, for example, or the
Okay.
Turkish.
So
to teach so I mean to teach the robot this language, like what kind of backend are we using? Like Google's like stuff, or like are you building your own NLP stuff from scratch, or how does this work?
Um, I wasn't involved in that particular part, but we just used the script basically, and we implemented it
Okay.
ourselves. And we also did an experiment where we had Turkish children, and then we had a student who speaks Turkish help us implementing the Turkish sentences. And it was not text to speech; it was just a script that the robot was following. To make it easy for us, and also to make it consistent between children, so that the robot would not deviate between the children.
Okay. So how do kids react to this robot? Like how do they engage with it?
Um, there's so many children are very different, but the main reaction was, of course, that they really liked it. They really enjoyed it. They found it fun. They were really excited with the robot. They wanted to be friends, so they saw the robot as a friend mostly. They also wanted to touch the robot and hug it. So that was always like really fun. I got always a lot of energy from them after the experiments. And yeah, so I always also ask children about their perception of the robot. So I ask them questions like, do you think the robot grows, or do you think the robot can eat? So testing whether the children saw the robot more as a human or as a computer. And I got
Hmm.
such fun responses. I got like responses like, "Oh, I think the robot is a boy because he doesn't have hair, so it is bald." These kind of things. Yeah. Or like, "Do you think the robot can grow?" Then they would respond, "No, I don't think it can grow because then it can't reach the electricity anymore because then it's too tall for the socket."
Interesting.
Yeah. Or like, "Do you think it can eat?" And then, "No, it can't eat." "Well, maybe it can eat, but only spaghetti because the mouth of the robot is too small.
All
Any other
right.
bites?"
that's pretty that's pretty clever actually.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a lot of fun. Also, and yeah, to compare like children how they responded to those questions beforehand and after the scenario. So that was very interesting. Yeah.
So, so none of the children responded with a Skynet, an AI taking over the world scenario. They're too young to know
Yeah,
that, I guess.
exactly. They were too young to say those
Right,
kind of
right, right.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, so as far as they're concerned, everything's awesome, right?
Yeah.
Everything's great.
Yeah.
And like so, there was no like so. Did they find so they found it fairly intuitive, I guess, just to interact with the robot
Yeah.
and to get
Yeah.
to
And
understand.
that was actually also really interesting to see because children adapt so quickly, faster than us as adults. Because, like, for example, they started to talk to the robot about things they did during the day. So, like, "Oh, yesterday I went to my grandmother and my grandfather, and we did like fun stuff. We went to the Efteling or something." And the
Hmm.
robot would respond to that because it was just like, yeah, as I already said, like it was following that script. And then they immediately realized, like, okay, I can tell this, but the robot won't respond. So, okay, that's fine. I'm completely fine with that. And I will just continue with the experiment. That's okay. So it was like so interesting to see how quickly they would adapt to those scenarios. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like I mean I haven't like I have a engineering background, but I never actually got the opportunity to um, interact with sort of robots in like in the way that they're being built now, which is really advanced, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then and now seems pretty complicated. Like it seems like it can do a lot of pretty cool stuff. And
It can, but it's also so you can create a lot of fun interactions, and you can also create, yeah, so like now it can move its arms and its head and its legs and everything, so it can create some fun interactions. However, it's also less advanced than you might expect because sometimes you want stuff, so you want the robot to jump, for example, or to run around, but that's really complicated for robots. Or to grab certain objects from a table. That's just, we do that as humans very easily. We don't think about those kind of actions, and it's very difficult for a robot to implement that, um, especially for now. So that's not really an option with now robots. There are robots who can do that better. That's definitely true. Um, but it's still pretty difficult for robots to do those kind of manipulations.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I guess at a rudimentary level, we've been working on robotics for a long, long time as humans, right? We're trying to figure out how to make things that can do the things that we can do. But like, it makes you really appreciate how easy we have it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and
like
also like everyone has such high expectation of robots, and that's fun. But it's also we all have to understand that we have our expectations are basically too high at the moment. So we should start lower and then move up instead of having like this
yeah,
steep
yeah.
degrees.
So yeah, so I mean, I spoke to Giacomo about this. Like, so I interviewed him day before yesterday,
Ah, nice.
and we were talking about the Tesla bot and the announcement that Musk made about a humanoid robot that can like basically do a lot of things.
Hmm.
Giacomo was not convinced. He was like, there's no way that's gonna be possible anytime soon." Uh,
Yeah,
I don't know if I don't know if you've seen it or not, but
I haven't seen the Tesla bot, but um, yeah, I think I agree with Giacomo that we won't see it that soon that robots can do
yeah.
everything.
So, what does it take for a robot? I mean, from what I can see, it doesn't take much for a human being to have a reasonably social, like a human-like interaction with a robot, right? Like even with just like two dots on a page moving around, we immediately think, oh, look, that thing's doing that, and he has these feelings.
Yes.
So we don't really have to create all these things. We can just project them onto the robot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's actually part of my research. I did some studies at anthropomorphism, that's the word, how
Hmm.
human-like, that projects human-like properties to certain objects. We do that also with like, um, yeah, indeed, with like dots on the wall or like clouds that are shaped as sheep, or our robot, vacuum cleaner robot, for example, that's also like part of the household almost.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
so yeah, yeah, we attribute like these human-like properties to objects, and I think that's fine, but we just have to deal with them. So we have to understand that people do this, and then they have certain, yeah, expectations. It comes all comes back to expectations
Yeah.
that researchers have to take into account. Yeah.
So, like, I, I always try to bring this thing back to sort of how we treat other people, right? Like for example, I mean, like I know that you're a human person, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I mean, I don't know. You could be a robot. I have no idea, but like the point is like like this ability to anthem. I can't say the word,
No, that's okay. You
but
can say
that
human.
one. Yeah, that one. So like we sort of do that with other people as well, right? Like in a sense, it's really impossible for me to know what you're feeling and how what you're doing and how you're feeling. Like a lot of it is like I see your reactions and what you say, and then I infer certain emotional and like mental states based on those things,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We have empathy for other human beings, and children, and animals and everything. So yeah, that's part of human being, and it's also important because then you can also change your behavior for certain people because you can understand how they feel. At least you
right? Hmm.
project. Yeah, you have some sense of how they feel, um, and then you change your behavior around them because some people might not cope with the same reactions as you would have with other people. So I think that's part of being a human. Um,
For sure.
yeah, social interaction. Yeah.
Like I don't know, like I honestly, I don't have to, I don't have to think of like, like when I think about social interaction and like robotics, I'm mostly just thinking about myself because I think like I have a hard enough time managing interactions on my like in my own life, right? And and I'm a competent human person, so like thinking about how to like structure those social interactions is hard enough as it is. But I like getting a robot, do you think it's a really important part of building something that will be used every day in like people's lives, like having that strong social interaction component, like compared to like a Roomba, like who just moves around the floor and just does his thing.
Yes, I think so. I think it is quite important because, like, um, so that's also a part that I saw with my experiment with with children. They do adapt. And they have very high expectations of the robot in the beginning, like for example that they can tell a story about their grandfathers and their grandmother, and the robot will respond to that. And if the robot doesn't respond, they immediately understand that, and they change their um, their perceptions about the robot over time. And I
Mm.
think that's fine because we adapt, but that's also part of when a new child enters the classroom. Then children will also they have to create some common ground together with that child, what things that child likes or how it reacts to certain responses. So I think that's also the case with other humans. With robots, it's of course the case that robots are less advanced than humans,
Mm.
so we have to do some more adaptations, fine tuning. But
So Tesla gave its cars the ability to dance,
yeah,
right? Like I don't know if you've seen those
yes,
videos, but
yeah,
like it's pretty neat, right? It's like, oh look,
yeah.
this it can move around, it can dance, like,
Mhm.
oh man, like this whole robotics thing is completely new to me. Like I haven't like even really thought about it in the sense that like in the sense of like I'm just curious about its place in the future.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah, there's so many different robotic fields as well. But like every single research unit has its own small parts to play. Like some researchers only focus on the dances, or like so basically how can we create like behaviors that are fluent enough. Other researchers only focus on expressions in the face. Look at Sophia, for example, the robot. Um, and others focus on the social aspect with robots that are already used in the world. But I do think that robots are going to become a larger part of the future because they are there, they're getting more advanced, and we don't have enough expert humans um, that that can do those tasks. So, for example, teaching children a second language, if you have a robot that can do that and a human who can't, because the human doesn't speak that language, for example, how great would it be if we have a robot that can teach children every language? So, like, if we say, oh, please learn Chinese, and they can just go with the robot and learn Chinese. I don't speak Chinese, so it would be great that some technology can help there.
Yeah,
Um,
but there's gonna be a lot of resistance from people who will be like,
of
man,
course,
take my job. This is craziness.
yeah, of course. But I also I see the robot only as a tool. So it's a tool like a computer or an iPad or something to help us, but it will never remove the job from the human.
Yeah, I read recently about some AI implementations in China where they're really going hard on the robot tutoring or like the AI tutoring like idea. So because there's so many people, right, and they need to teach all these people how to do this, like programming and mathematics and
Yeah,
stuff,
exactly.
and they're really heavily invested in tutoring people with AI and
Yeah,
like
and it also creates some opportunities. Like the robot can frame itself as a friend. So like if you have a human teacher, that's probably always going to be an adult, or yeah, it's probably going to be an adult or a little bit older, more advanced person. So there's a different um, hierarchy, hierarchy,
hierarchy.
higher. That's the word that I can say.
That's
Between the human and the child, if we look at children. And a robot can frame itself a little bit as a peer so that the child
Hmm.
can have a different interaction with it. So it might understand, like if it's about learning how to take turns during a game. It's a different scenario if a child plays with another child and it learns how to take turns. So, for example, a robot child. Um, than with an adult, because the child will also always think that the human is more advanced, or the adult will be more advanced than the peer where it's playing with. So that's a
Right.
different dynamic. Or you also have, for example, a project where children are actually teaching the robot how to write different letters of the alphabet, and while teaching the robots how to write, they are learning to write in a better way because they have
Right.
to
Yeah.
explain
Yeah.
like
Exactly. That's
how
interesting.
to make the shapes.
Yeah. 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 That's
And
true.
that's an opportunity that
And
we don't really have when you have adults.
yeah, for sure. And like, there's a different dynamic when you're like learning from a peer versus learning from a teacher like you. Like,
Yes.
there's a difference.
Yeah.
Like, so I know like so I TA calculus, right?
Hmm.
And some of the sessions I handled them on my own, and Professor Giacomo and can't remember his name, Federico are not there, and the people are much more relaxed, and
Yeah.
they're less afraid to ask questions because they're not worried about looking stupid. And so I'm like,
Yeah, exactly.
sorry,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So that's a, I always also experienced that when I was a TA as a student, and when I'm now a lecturer. So that's already a different dynamic. Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty cool. So I mean, so there's also so okay, so I have this concern, right? Well, it's not a concern, but like this idea. One of the things that say AI or like, let's say just an advanced economy, like let's say the Netherlands or whatever, right? One of the things that an advanced economy like this does well is that if something can be taken care of by some other agent in the market, it gets taken care of, right? Like what I'm leading to is elder like older people, like the care of elderly people and robots, right?
Yeah.
And so where I'm from, that would be sort of like a taboo, right?
Yeah.
It's like no way it's up to your family to take care of the people that took care of you. Like it's only reasonable that you take care of the people that spend so much time taking care of you
Hmm.
as a child. And the different attitudes about that different wherever you go.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think it depends on the country. Like the Netherlands is pretty um, people are pretty
Hmm.
individualistic. People also yeah, most families don't have a lot of children, for example, so they don't have a lot of children to take, yeah, that can take care of the adults, of the elderly. Um, and then you need some other mechanisms that can help you there, because when I look at my parents, yeah, my grandmother only has two children, and those two children can't be there every single day. That's just not an option. So
Hmm.
then you have to have some kind of mechanism, or like some kind of system in place that support can come from something else. Um, and it's actually interesting because my grandmother is placed in an elderly home a few months ago, and I saw when I was walking past the other apartments that there were actually cat robots in those places that people can take care of. Um, and that's really nice to see, because then you actually see the impact that you can do as a researcher, because then actually people are using a robot in their daily life. And it's not that advanced yet, because it's meaning like it's a cat robot, so they can pet it, and it spins and everything, and you don't have to feed it. So that's the advantage there, if you compare it to a real pet. Um,
Right.
but you already see that there's some systems being used, and people are supported by it.
Right. I mean, like, so some cultures are they've been like messing around with the robot idea for a long time. Like Japan, for example,
Yeah.
they're all about that. Like
Hmm.
they're all about the robots. They're all about the exoskeletons and like
Yeah.
the augmentation, because like that's been part of Japanese sort of sci-fi and like that. So I mean I love animes and like and sci-fi stuff. So I've been sort of immersed in that for a while, but they're all about that, like
Hmm.
like augmenting the human experience using robotics and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, and I think it's also changing. So it's like, of course, maybe the older generation does mind, but like the newer generations to follow us will be more comfortable with robots. Also because they become more advanced. Like if it's just a robot that can drive around and hits a wall the whole time, like a vacuum cleaner robot, um, yeah, it's like it's good for cleaning the floor, but furthermore, it can't do anything. But if it
Hmm.
gets more advanced, then you can also expect more from them.
Right. So I mean, so one of the things that I've been thinking about is like this: as we get better and better with AI and robotics and etc., we are we are making a world that it's more like, for example, Netflix will recommend movies that you want to watch,
Hmm.
right? YouTube will recommend movies that you want to, the videos you want to watch.
Yes.
The Amazon recommends books that you might like,
Hmm.
right? And these are really useful in the sense that because there are so many options,
Yeah.
it narrows the search space really well,
Hmm.
right? Like like if you've used Amazon for long enough, like the recommendations it gives me are actually really good. I'm like, yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
great, right? Let's watch that, or like let's read that. And but so what I'm thinking about is like, is that sort of, there is a downside to that. It's like it's hard to relate to other people when your entire worldview is, everything you see in your world is perfectly tailored to exactly what you want. Like if you go on YouTube, if you go on Facebook, the news you see or the posts you see are the ones that you might like. Twitter, same thing. Like
Yeah.
so, I think so. If we extend this to robotics, right, and then we get all the, and we have this robot that knows exactly all the jokes we like and like the kind of things we want to talk about and the places we want to go, and it's humanoid and it's like it can walk around, it can do all these things. Where does that leave human beings in terms of just even social interaction? Like that sounds pretty, I don't know. I'm not I have a kind of a dystopian tilt in mind in the way of my thinking, but I'm just curious as what you might think about
Yeah. That's so interesting. That's very interesting to come up with, Udesh. It's I do agree. So we're thriving for we really try to get personalized recommendations for everyone indeed, and that wasn't the case. Of course, obviously, it wasn't the case because everyone was reading the same newspaper in the from the
it.
start, or the same movies because there was just one channel television.
Yeah.
Uh,
Three
yeah,
movies.
and then you had something to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, but I think you will. I think actually it creates the opportunity to because we also have the internet, for example, to find people online or in the world, in the whole um, worldwide net that have the same interests as you. And if you're the only one who have who has that specific interest, there will be other interests that you have that other people still have. Um, and then if you look at, for example, sport, well, like a soccer team or something, that's always the case, and it's always going to be local. And you will always find people locally that have the same interest as that same sport as you. But if you have a different hobby, and normal, like you used to have to do it on your own because no one did it, or maybe you weren't actually able to do that hobby. Um, Now you can find people online who can help you with that. So that's actually
True.
the benefit of this part.
Actually, like if you think about it in a sense, so what I think, have you seen the movie Her?
Yes.
Okay, so what I think is that seems like the most likely thing to happen first.
Hmm.
Like a completely conversational slash search bot, right?
Yes.
That you feel connected to in the sense that like you talk to this person all the time, it knows who you are, like all these things. That seems pretty feasible. Like if I'm just from the things that we know, right?
I'm not sure whether it's feasible, that feasible as you think, because I like the conversational AI. It works, but it's not that. it's getting more advanced and more advanced and more advanced, I know, but it's not at that level yet. Um,
Right, right.
and I'm also not completely sure whether that will get to that level, as in the movie Her, that soon.
I mean, yeah, like Scarlett Johansson is an
Yeah,
amazing voice in that.
yeah, that's
I
her.
mean,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I don't think it'll get there
no,
anytime soon. But I feel like the robot the body problem is super complicated compared to that.
that's true. Yeah, so maybe an avatar indeed or something like that will be easier to use. I think it's also pretty difficult um, like to that the computer understands the intonation or like the meaning behind your words. So like understanding basic comments is fine. Um, but if you make a joke, for example, then the robot has to understand that it is a joke. I'm actually not sure
Yeah,
how
like
far the computers are with interpreters, those kind of things. But or like if you say something sarcastically, that's also
sarcastic. I was just about to
yeah,
say that, like sarcasm. It's like that's tricky.
yeah,
That's a very human thing.
yeah,
Sarcasm is such a human, like such a tricky thing to sort out. Even for like other humans, it's hard
even
to
for
sort of figure out.
humans, yeah. And also in
Yeah.
different languages, it's more difficult because then
Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, some languages like sarcasm doesn't work well at all. Like at least like like in my language, like I have no idea. Like it's like so I consider myself a native English speaker, right?
mhm,
But I also speak Sinhalese,
yeah,
and which is like a tiny. No one. The only country in the world that speaks it is where I'm from, Sri Lanka, right? And sarcasm is super difficult in that language. Like it makes sort of makes no sense. It's like
okay.
uh,
But
so like
can you use sarcasm in English then? In
yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. Like, that's like so. Sometimes I'll try to speak like because I think in English, right? And so I'll come up with something sarcastic and translate it into Sinhalese, and my parents will be like, "What? No, don't say that." I'm like, "No, that's a joke." They're like, "No, I don't know, I don't know what you mean." But no, it's cool. Like all these little weird things that we do with, especially with language, is putting that into something like a robot is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Like, um,
Yeah, and with the
like
human you
when
get the embodiment factor. So like you can use an avatar who says those words. And I think the difference between a robot, a physical robot in the same world as an avatar, um, I mean, they have different uses definitely, and you have a different interaction with them. Um, but with a human, you have, or with a robot, you have the aspect that it's in the same physical world as you. So you have, yeah, you might have a different bond with them because, like a computer, you can
mm,
shut down. So the avatar you can just shut down and put away, and a robot you can also shut down. But yeah, it's a little bit different because it's still in the same space if you shut it down. So you still see it. Um, so it creates a different bond as well with humans having that
right,
physical
right, right.
entity.
Like, so I mean, this is really like a strange thing to think about. It's like,
Yeah.
like okay, so like for me, so in terms of like a hierarchy of things that I expect to happen, right? So I was thinking, okay, I was thinking most I was thinking a lot of research in robotics would probably be first lead to advances in sort of prosthetics and
Mhm.
like so
Yeah. But
like would I
that-
sorry, go ahead,
that's
sorry.
also very useful because that's something that we just need. Yeah.
Right. So I was thinking like would I replace my hand with like a fully metal like insane at what point like how good would it have to be for me to say, you know what, this hand is limited, I'm gonna get a better one. Like how like what would that hand need to be like for me to decide to replace this with that one?
Yeah. So I think mostly it's of course for people who lost their hand and then they can use
Yeah,
the,
exactly. Yeah,
the
yeah,
artificial one. But
yeah. But the thing is
that's something that you have. Mhm.
Sorry, sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry,
So
sorry.
I think replacing your body parts by artificial ones, I'm also not completely sure whether we want to do that, because yeah, that's
Like it might
difficult.
be like it might like to make it affordable, to make so this is the thing, right? Like to make it so let's take like um it's because if only a very small percentage of people or like a very small number of class like just think of market forces, right? If very small number of people can't or don't want it,
Hmm.
I mean, sorry, want it, then there's not much incentive to put all this money into building it, right?
Yeah,
But imagine if you build something like that's really like phenomenal, and the aim is to give it to everybody, right?
yeah,
And that sort of funds the research and the development to help people who actually lost their
yeah,
hands. Like so there's a commercial thing, but like I mean, I've been thinking about it. Like for example, sometimes I think, man, I would love to have a prehensile tail.
yeah. Well, I think we
You
should
know what I
focus
mean?
more indeed on stuff that we can't do yet. So like wings
Yeah,
that you can fly
yeah.
around. That would
That
be
would be
so
crazy.
cool. Yeah,
That would be so
yeah.
cool.
So
Like
replacing my
oh
own
man, that's
hand,
been
well, I don't see the point of that. I'd rather have wings that can fly around or an extra hand maybe. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
but replacing stuff that already works, yeah, I would.
But like so, but like, what about your eyes? Like you could have some insane eyes,
Yeah,
like that can see see super far. Like you can see all kinds of spectrums. You can see infrared. Like, wouldn't you want that?
I rather would have glasses that I can put on and then off again. Maybe
Oh,
that's
okay, okay, okay.
yeah,
But the thing is, there are limitations, right? Like
yes.
there are limitations to your eye, right? Because like you have one optic nerve
Hmm.
and you have a retina that works in a certain way, can pick up certain things, right? But if you can bypass all that, so just go straight from like just like
Yeah,
this weird things to straight to your brain, and then like be able to see all kinds of like craziness. Like I mean,
yeah, they were really pretty cool. Yeah,
that'd be but wings for sure. That would like it's like one of my long time fantasies, like being able to just like
yeah,
flap my wings and just fly
yeah.
around.
The
I mean,
dream.
that, that's the
Yeah,
dream. But yeah, like augmenting our body with, I feel like that'll probably come first, then before we do like any sort of like,
yeah,
because
yeah.
wouldn't that be the
Yeah.
necessary step, like a necessary step, right?
Yeah, I think
To be
like
able to,
prosthetics for people who lost body parts, I think that will be
Mhm.
earlier. Of course, like using robots to atomize processes like cleaning the floor in your room, but also building cars and everything. So those kind of robots, we already have those, but adding on robots to do jobs for us, basically.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, uh,
So these are all the great stuff. But like, let's talk about like robots and war,
and
right? Like war, like fighting, like
oh.
like conflicts, like armed conflicts, right?
Mhm.
So I was thinking like, uh, suppose like we only fought wars with robots, right?
Mhm.
That was their only like so everyone's like gotten so advanced that all we do is the only time we go to war is if we fight with them with robots, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's an easy argument to make, right? Like if you're the government, you can say, we no longer we're not going to sacrifice your sons and daughters anymore. We're just going to send robots, and then people are going to control them from the
yeah,
remotely, or
yeah,
like they're completely AI robots, right? And then I was thinking, well, robots are like, wouldn't that like I was thinking that would escalate war to like a huge level,
yeah.
right?
It's
Because
just the country that's the richest then, and has the
yeah,
better developers. But the thing is,
uh,
with robot developer, they also move places because they most of the times like want to go to the lab that is the most advanced.
yeah,
So
and like think about robots made of like titanium or like it's all metal,
mhm.
right? Like then so human beings are not that hard to kill, right? Like they'll be soft, like just a couple bullets are good. But those things you'll need like missiles and
Yeah.
like mass high caliber weaponry, right?
But if you
So
go
like a war.
further, you can even do it as a simulation, and then you do
Yeah, exactly,
this
exactly.
anymore.
That's exactly where I was
Yeah.
getting, right? So I was thinking like, okay, so what if the only reason we go to space, right, to explore the space is to have like a war planet where all that it's like this one place that we fight all our wars,
Hmm.
right? And we decide everything. Then I was like, wait, why do we need to do that? Why can't we just have war virtually,
Yeah.
like just like Call of Duty,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
and and everyone just plays, and whoever wins gets. So the physical world has a limit to escalation,
Hmm.
right? Like you can only, like, because even if it's just robots fighting and it's super powerful weapons, it'll leave the entire battlefield destroyed, right?
Yes.
Like imagine the level of weapons you need to kill like a robot that's made of titanium or whatever,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so if we start having war in virtual reality wars,
Hmm.
right? So like, so this is kind of how my brain works. So
Yeah,
like I
I
just
agree.
sort
We
of
should do this. We should tell all the governments in the world, yes, the war is online.
yeah, that'll be like, so it's I mean, just the role of like, not just like, I mean, robot. I take robots as a general like term in such a sense that non-human intelligences, or like non-human things that do human-like stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Robots.
Yeah.
So like their role in our society, and like how we it's going to affect how we see ourselves as human beings, right? Like, and our role with each other especially.
Yeah.
So it's,
But technology already changed that.
oh, wait a minute. Okay, no, you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. Okay, keep, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, technology, yeah. Sorry, technical difficulties, but yeah, like, technology always, like, the fact that we have been augmenting our work, like our mind and our body for as long as we can remember, with just tools and other stuff, right?
Hmm.
Like, like I feel like half of my coding ability is because of Stack Overflow.
Yeah. And
Right.
yeah, so the ability of how to Google things,
Yeah, oh yeah,
that's
it's crazy.
that's so implemented in everyone these days. Or
Hmm.
like, well, not
Yeah.
everyone, but especially in our program, like programmers in general know how to Google those kind of
Yeah,
things.
I spend most of my time googling error code, error messages, right? Like, what the hell does this mean?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So it's crazy, like the so we are like, our mind is already been augmented, like it's sort of part of this big network, right?
Yeah.
And then we search it to find information,
Hmm.
and now we're thinking about, putting the stuff into like like the difficulty seems bringing it into the physical world is the difficulty here.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because you can come up with very good ideas, implement them, and then try them out on a physical robot, and then yeah, all everything breaks down because like of the motors cannot handle it, or like the gravity takes apart, or plays apart suddenly, or something. All those the different aspects you really have to take into account.
So, at what point do you think we have to worry about robots, in the sense that, um, we have to think about our laws and how, like our, like, there are already like these weird things on the internet, like, don't harm robots, or like, robots are humans too, or something like stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I actually think that we already should think about these kind of things because we're not there yet. But as soon as we have it, we have to have these laws into account, and also people have to understand these laws, and have to obey them while implementing robots. And it shouldn't be the same people who think about the laws and implement them. They should be different because then um, there's some independence between those two fields. So we actually should already start. And I know that I think they also already started thinking about how we can create rules within our society of how robots should handle certain aspects, war related or just in general.
So this is a terrible thought, but I was talking. Well, it's not a terrible thought, but like I was talking to like, so at some point in human history,
Mm-hmm.
we we decided slavery is a bad thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we did it for thousands of years. You're like, slavery is bad,
Yeah.
so we stop doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least some most people in the world. I mean, there is still going on. In case, like people should we know about this? Like, like it's bad. But anyway, so you have this robot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like so. This whole question of what rights should you give this robot
Yeah.
is gonna be interesting, right? It's like, well, if you're gonna give it human rights, are we admitting that this is now a human being? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. Isn't there a robot who has a passport somewhere?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So,
Sophia? Yeah.
dude, that story is so funny. Like, because it was I think Saudi Arabia that gave this robot, or like some Middle Eastern. I'm pretty sure it was Saudi, right? That gave robots, that gave the robot the right, human rights or
Yeah.
whatever. Which is funny because at that point women were not even allowed to drive in Saudi. So I was like, man,
Yeah.
robots became humans before females were
Yeah.
allowed
That's
to drive, right?
yeah.
So these are like these are things are pretty weird. Like
Mm-hmm.
human beings are they're struggling with these things
Yes.
so much
Yeah.
everywhere, right? Like, how the hell do we set all these things up? So do you think a robot will have to have a body before we have the conversation, or do you think like just even a software based, like a AI that passes the Turing test, that's completely like a her level thing?
Yeah, I think we should have
What
the
do you think?
conversation then or earlier than just having the body. And because the creating the body, um, it's hard, so it's not easy. But that's just the last part. Then and you have to
Hmm.
start already earlier with creating laws on this. That's my
Do
opinion.
you do you do you like dabble in sci-fi at all? Like like science fiction stuff about this? Like any interests in that, in any like movies or books?
Um, I do, but I always try to see them in a as a different field than my field. So I don't think about what would happen if we have this robot in our world because it's
Yeah.
not like especially for example if you look uh, at what's the name, the Marvel movies. So yeah,
Oh yeah, Ultron.
yeah, for example, so if you have those kind of um, robots in our world, that's a very different. That's very scientifically based, and that's not going to happen.
Have you seen the movie Wall-E?
Yes, of course.
Oh, Wall. No, like okay, think about a robot like Wall-E,
Mhm.
right? That would be great. I would love a robot like Wally.
Yeah,
Like he's adorable. Like he's fun. He moves around. Like it doesn't even look like a robot. But like, I mean, sorry, as a human, but it's enough. Like I was completely absorbed by that robot. Like
yeah.
I felt bad for him, and like I wanted him to succeed,
Hmm.
and like his emotion, like his like reactions, and
Yeah,
oh, that was brilliant.
yeah. That's actually where we started the anthropomorphism part. To
Oh yeah, yeah,
anthropomorphize the
yeah,
robot, and I think actually that body is a very bad example of what a robot can be because it's the body can't do anything basically. Well, it can drive
yeah,
around and like fix itself and like so it can actually
yeah,
do quite a lot, but it's very limited
yeah,
because you just pick up
yeah,
stuff in his body and then make
yeah.
it in a box. Um,
It's mostly in the eyes, right? Like
yes,
it's almost all of his emotionalities, everything's in the
yeah,
eyes. Like just the way the eyes bend and and it sounds like
yeah, exactly. So
like
that's like such a weird. So the social part in Raleigh is very strong, because it is a
mhm,
Pixar movie, of course. But it's a very strong um, component of the robot that it can be like it can express emotions and it can think pretty cleverly. But the body cannot do that much, and it's like such a big difference that I feel like
right,
that's
right.
never going to
Like,
happen.
yeah, even like so even the robot he falls in love with,
Yes,
Eva, right?
yeah,
Like she's like it's I think honestly, like, so think about think about the limitations that they had for that robot. Like, I mean, for the movie, right? So the creators couldn't use actual words, but they had to put to like portray these things with just this animation.
Hmm.
I think they did. I think they did a phenomenal
They did
job.
it.
Like, there
Yeah,
was
it was very good to implement. Yeah.
unbelievable. Like, I think there's a lot to learn there for, like, just like human computer interaction, just for basic,
Hmm.
like little robots.
Yeah, and
But like,
at, at some point they also created a robot, and they hired um, animators to help them expressing or creating emotions for a robot without actually the face as a human, so that it can
mhm,
express some emotions by just moving around. um, yeah, to display emotions, not per se for a purpose, but just because they wanted to express emotions with a robot.
right. So let's think about, so like, I think a big part of robots, I think we should definitely think about robots, or like at least something, we should put money into it more than anything, because for me, I think space exploration,
Hmm.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, like it, okay, let's think of it like a little bit crazy. It's like, imagine, because the human body does not do well in space, right? Like our bone density drops, or like our everything starts to get weird in
Yeah.
space, right? And we are susceptible to radiation, all this other nonsense,
Hmm.
right? So we want to send robots to all these places, and we also want to have robots as company to for, like, astronauts, and
Yeah.
we can talk to them and like play with them and all this other stuff.
Hmm.
So there's so much, like, right, I think there's a lot of there's a lot riding on this on this path
Yeah.
of trying to, like, get people to.
Yeah, and actually something that we can invest in, what they already do, but is like make the communication throughout space faster. Um,
Hmm.
because like the Mars rover, the first one, or the second one, that drove around, the researchers really had to implement or like talk to each other and say like, okay, what are we going to do with the robot next week? Because we have to implement it first, then we have to send it to the robot, and then the next week it can work, or the next days it can work on this project. But because it's such a slow process, because they have to send this behavior to the robot, it takes so much time. And I think that communication between robots
Yeah,
in outer space and here can be improved.
yeah, for sure. There's like, did you, I mean, you've seen the Terminator movies, right?
Yes. No.
I mean,
No.
that's pretty much what everyone thinks of
Yes.
when they hear
Uh-huh.
robots, and like
Yeah.
the robot, the takeover of humans. But like, there is a kernel of truth in that. Not like the apocalyptic takeover, but like the ones you just talked about, right? Like the robots taking over things that we, for example, usually rely on family or like our friends to do.
Yeah.
Um, social robots, especially
Yeah.
like taking over those little
And
roles.
let's hope war as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
man,
I don't think it's going to
like,
happen, but it would be great if.
no, it would be like interesting, right? Like, imagine if right now the war in Ukraine was being fought by just
Yeah,
robots. Like, it seems, like,
seems to make
I don't
sense.
know. It is weird. So okay. So I mean, okay. Well, you've given me almost an hour of your time, so I'm not gonna.
So
Uh,
it's okay. Yeah.
so, but I also, like, I want, so let's just talk about, um, what kind of future do you think is something that's, so these are the couple of questions that I ask everyone I've spoken to so far. It's
Hmm.
like, what kind of future is worth, like, running towards, like running like hell towards, and then what kind of future is like we should run as far away from as possible.
So things to invest in is are when you look at the social robotic aspect is interpreting emotions or like yeah, emotions from humans, so that and that robots can also show emotions and that they understand this scenario. Also create an adaptive robot that can actually indeed adapt itself completely to a certain user. um, Things that we should run away from is well, having too high expectations um, right now. So
Okay.
we don't have to be scared that robots will take our jobs at
Mm,
all. Um, first of all, they won't take our jobs, and they will also create new jobs. Like if you have a
mm,
robot, you also need someone who checks the robots or like uh,
true.
fixes them or just turns them on or something. Yeah.
So the thing is, so like that's a good point. So, you know, this is okay. So this is actually a hard statistic for people to get right. So, so I'll just take the the United States example. Okay, the U.S. Army, I'm not sure if they still do this, but the U.S. Army had, at least the last I checked, they have an IQ requirement for you to join the army. Okay, so if it's below 80, you can't join.
Hmm.
Right? And this is the army. So army will take anybody, right?
Yeah.
It's like they just want bodies, right? And they just need like people who can follow instructions. And it's like that's like 10% of the population,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So like as let's say like you just said, so what are those people what are those people going to do when uh, there are robots who can pretty much do whatever it is that they want, like they can do, like so like repetitive, dull and boring tasks are ripe for robots and AI to take over,
Yeah.
right? I mean, even lawyers. So actually, so when I was um, like I know for like law firms in the UK, for example,
Hmm.
they hire teams. So the first step they do is like they hire teams in countries like Sri Lanka to do all the research for them
Hmm.
on cases and stuff,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's cheaper,
Yeah.
right? But then you can abstract that further and say, you know what, like why can't I just have a AI who can does who has really good NLP to go through all these case files, find all the links, and like just come up with the connections that I need.
Yeah.
So like it's a that's a tricky question, right? So do you think I think there's actually a credible reason to worry about AI, especially taking over some jobs, because they are going to do that. And I mean, they're doing that already, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, think about self-driving trucks, for example.
Hmm. Yeah. So I think that in those kinds of scenarios, I think the AI can actually help the human instead of taking it over fully. So with the
Mm.
truck driver, yeah, I do see that at some point there will be trucks that can just drive automatic on their own
Mhm.
without a truck driver. However, you have to take into account that there are humans on the same road that can they can get an accident or there can be unexpected situations that the AI cannot deal with. And that's a very ethical question, like who is responsible then if something happens with an AI on the road or somewhere else? Who will be responsible? And
Yeah, that's the huge thing,
yeah,
right? Like, who's responsible for what a car does? I mean, we've been talking about that in AI ethics quite a
yeah,
bit. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
what's the problem? So, like like if now malfunctions somehow,
Yeah.
and like it's teaching these kids and it like punches them in the face or
Yeah.
something. Who's responsible? Is it the person who did the programming? Is it the company that made the robot?
Hmm. Yeah.
you
So
know
these kind of questions should be answered. And for now, it's pretty obvious. Or well, is it obvious? Well, maybe not. But like in the case of now, it's obvious that the programmer then, if it's programmed, that it's the problem of the programmer. If it's not programmed, then maybe it's the company.
right, right,
Um,
right.
but you probably can argue for that as well.
So like that's weird, right? Let's say so when I was a kid, or like I don't know, when I was like, even now, okay, let's say before I was technically adult, so let's say 18 years old, right? If I screwed up, whose fault is it? Is it my fault? So is it my parents' fault?
Yeah.
Is like my environment's fault? I mean, that's actually a problem we have, right?
Hmm.
Like, so as humans, what we've sort of decided is that if it's a child or like an adolescent, it's less their fault. It's like the degree of how much it's your fault increases as you get older and older.
Hmm.
It feels
Yeah,
like.
because you have more experience in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you should.
would you do that to robots? Like if a self-driving robot is has been on the road for just 1 year, it's like this is not its fault, you know. And then, but then if it's like 10 years old, it's like, you know, it's been around, it's got experience, it's learned. This should not be happening. So
Yeah.
now it's the, you know, I don't know,
Yeah, but you
company's fault,
can't
right?
get money from a robot. You can't like the emotional
Yeah,
thing.
you can't sue them. You can't, you
Yeah,
know,
so
it's
that's
like
the things that you have to uh, that ethics people should think about.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean, this is like it becomes a problem for like insurance, right? We'll have to like change our entire insurance sort of
Yes.
framework. It's like, okay, well, who the hell is responsible for this accident?
Mhm.
And then it's like, okay, who's going to pay,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. Like these are real like actual problems. So I think these also need to be talked about and solved concurrently
Yes.
if you want to have robots out in the world doing things that you want robots to do,
Yeah, definitely.
right? So
Yeah.
so that people feel safe having, you know, like a robot in their house taking care of their grandma, or like,
Hmm.
you know, picking up
Yeah,
their groceries or
and
whatever
of
it is.
course privacy, but that's something. Let's not go into depth about that. But those kind of aspects should also be taken into account.
Oh no, for sure. Like I mean, if you're having the robot in your house, it's hearing and seeing everything.
Yeah,
Like I
Alexa
mean, I think
already
Europe,
and Google Home.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So like, okay, so I am terrified about that, right? So like, I don't know who to trust at this point. Like I want to believe Apple is reasonably good with their privacy stuff, but I have no idea. And I like, so one of my friends went to Italy a few days ago, right? And all of a sudden I'm seeing Italian, like commercials for Italian beer
Yeah,
and stuff on YouTube, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is a coincidence?
yeah,
Like this can't be a coincidence, right? What the hell?
yeah.
Um,
Sometimes if you also
so
speak to
but
people and then suddenly you get an advertisement about that topic that you're like, what?
so like the thing is, it's hard to pinpoint why on earth you're seeing
Yeah,
this, right? Like, is it because of your usage, or is it because of the usage of the people that you're connected to,
yeah, that's also possible. That they,
right?
yeah, searched for it.
It's a mess. So now imagine, now you put a robot in your house, and then all of a sudden, I mean, Alexa or like Google Home or like all those things, I'm not like, the convenience is sort of
Yeah.
outweighing the possible problems, right?
Hmm.
Like telling Alexa to order toilet paper is so
Yeah.
easy compared to like going to the goddamn store and like picking this shit up
Yes.
and coming back home, and it's a mess,
Yeah.
man. So like that's a real like. Do you have any of these AI things at your house, like Alexa or like a Google or
No,
something?
but I do use the Google Assistant quite often. I don't have a Google Home,
Okay.
but I do use the Google Assistant quite often. Yeah.
Okay, all I use Siri for is like start a timer, or like
Yeah.
what time, what like what's
And
the weather
start my
like. That's
music
me.
and start television.
Yeah, yeah, play music.
Yeah.
No, it's super useful in the gym. It's like I just hold it, say, "Hey, play something
Yeah.
else." I like play some
If I'm
music.
on a bike and then I want to change my music. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so useful, right? Like having something that like even semi-intelligent is can be so useful. It's unbelievable, right? And like think about like Google search. Like it's gotten so good at like showing you precisely. Like when was the last time you went past the first page of Google?
Yeah. Exactly. I can't really.
Right? You can't think of it, right? You can't think of the time you
No.
did that. It's so good now.
Mhm.
And so yeah, finding information and like getting things done, yeah, it's going to be great. Anyway, so Miriam, I'm not going to take up much more of your time. I know you have things to do. uh
Well, thank you.
this has been great. Like this has been really fun,
Yeah.
and talking about the robots in the future and like the research stuff.
Yeah. I found it
Is there
very,
any are there any like, are there any books that you might recommend people to read, or like it doesn't matter what genre, just like it could be nonfiction, fiction, or like books, movies, TV shows, anything. What
mm,
Anything come to mind? I know I didn't mean to put you on the spot,
Yeah,
but
this is. I should. Well, there's a dissertation um, coming out from Mirjam
dissertation. Okay,
Haas.
perfect. That counts, I
Yeah.
guess. All
No,
right.
there's. Um, yeah, I don't really like. I used to. I probably have a recommendation somewhere, but I just can't come up with it.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's
Okay.
totally fine. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. I just wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, thank you for your
Yeah.
time. This
Thank
has
you
been a lot of
for
fun.
inviting me. I
Of
enjoyed
course,
it.
and yeah, I guess I'll see you in class,
Yeah.
right? So this has been great. Okay, I'll catch you. All right,
Good luck.
catch you later.
Yeah. Bye.
All right, bye. Thank you for joining me in this conversation. I hope you got something out of it. And until next time.